Hey everybody, welcome back to Vito X Dino. This train doesn't stop going. It goes every week. What's up, Dean?
Hey Vito, how are you?
I'm good.
This
Uh
train doesn't stop going.
this train's got to run on time, baby.
That's right, baby.
That's what Mussolini said, and we're all about fascism nowadays.
Yeah.
Let me introduce our esteemed guest this week. He is the artist behind such hits as Midnight Tiger, uh, DC's DC Power Rise of the Power Company, I should say, which I really want to get into here today. He's also drawn Dr. Aphra for the Star Wars line at Marvel. He's been all over the place. I love him. He is my missing brother, my other half, Mr. Ray Anthony Height.
What's up, fellas?
Yellow.
So I wanted to get into the
Uncle
conversation
Vito.
about what's that?
Uncle Vito. Shayla
Yes.
says give you her best. So
Oh, thank you very much. I love her. And I love your kids. And my kids call you Uncle Ray. That's the whole thing. So I wanted to get into Rise of the Power Company, not necessarily because of the content within, the art that you guys did, but you did it as a studio. Like you
oh yeah.
did the entire thing as Ray Anthony Height and Studio Skye-Tiger. How did that come about?
So what's crazy is I was reminded, I thought this was, let's say, 2022 idea that didn't come to fruition until 2023, and then some pitfalls and stuff like that. But talking to Shayla, she's like, "No, you actually kind of had this idea 10 years ago to do." I don't remember. If anything, it was in passing. I was doing whatever I was doing then. But I've always been a big fan, Vito, and Dean and I follow each other, so I talk about this stuff all the time. I'm a big fan of anime and manga.
Hmm.
And I know that they have these studios. You have your main mangaka and the assistants, and the assistants get trained up and eventually go on to do their own manga. But they make sure that, since we're talking about trains, fellas, the train goes out on time, right? The trains are on time, and they do their best work. And those guys, the weekly, not every manga, contrary to popular American belief, that those books always come out weekly. They don't. Some come out monthly. And those are usually the CNN comics. But the volume that they're able to put out, like I would say, so the manga could put out anywhere between 15 to 25 pages a week. And then that's the weekly Shonen Jump. And then the CNN comics, which is more mature, they're like 60 to 100 pages a month. It's crazy. It's
Yeah.
crazy, right?
If I may just interject a little bit, I was first introduced to the idea of the larger studio, let's call it, because I was an assistant to Howard Chaykin in 1985, along with
Nice.
Walt Simonson and Bill Sienkiewicz, right? But one of the things that they had early access to was a comic book called Akira,
Hmm.
right? And I don't know if it's Katsuhiro Otomo or Otomo Katsuhiro. I don't know which way.
If you're in the East, Otomo Katsuhiro. If you're American, it's Katsuhiro Otomo.
Katsuhiro Otomo. So, but they were telling me, and it's this incredible work, and you're looking at it, you're like, how does one human being draw all this, right? Well, one doesn't draw all this, right? There
Exactly.
literally is a guy who draws maybe the speed lines, and then there's a person who draws the motorcycles, the person who draws the cars, the person who draws the buildings. And I think one of the reasons why Howard was showing that to me was because he was trying to explain the process of what maybe assistants can do, not just fill in blacks, erase pages, but you're doing backgrounds, or you're doing in conjunction with the main head artist, and in service of the deadline, right? So
Yep.
when you're
Always.
talking about these comics, 100-page comics a month, it's absurd, right? And recently I did a comic called The Red Hook at Webtoon, and I was doing like 2 chapters a month, and the equivalent of about 5 pages a chapter. So I was rocking out 10 pages, and to me that was a lot. And I know other artists can do like, a whole comic book in a month, or God forbid, don't even talk about Jack Kirby back in the day, when he could do 2 to 4 comics a month, as a penciler and a writer. But yeah, the thing that started to happen at Webtoon, I found out, was that my measly 5 pages, which would equal maybe 25 to 30 panels a week, when it finally came out. Because I would get like 16 chapters in the can of a 26 chapter season, right? So that I wasn't falling behind, because there's no way I could meet that weekly schedule. But now I feel like they're trying to do 50 to 100 panels a week, which is a comic book.
You're correct. You are correct, sir. So they have several studios, and their studios, and I'll give you some insight as to the way mine works. Their studios are run like an anime studio, the Webtoon studios. So you have several colorists on hand. You have layout artists, you have background artists, you have the writers, you have the letterers. And what's crazy about that, and Dean, you already know this, is Webtoon is much like manga, where you do one really, really good background and then the rest is sparse.
Right. On each page or scene, you do an establishing shot, and it's all the hard work, and then you cut to the close-ups and maybe some action, right? Absolutely. Exactly. I mean, that's the way to do it.
You might have some indicators, but it ain't like that first shot.
Right.
I like to call those beauty shots.
No, absolutely.
They just pull you in.
And another trick of the trade that I learned early on was, let's say you have a setting in a bar, and you have your two main characters at the bar, the bartender, some crowd work, whatever you want to call it, and then another character is entering, right? But if you put like a dartboard somewhere in that room, and then you just cut to the characters talking, and you show where they are via the where the dartboard is in the background sometimes, then you know where everybody is.
And because you established the staging.
You established it. And the other thing about comics, which is different from when you're reading like a webtoon or some stuff online, is that you literally on the page can see the establishing shot or whatever, however big it is, and then the other panels, but you're always referencing. Your eyeballs are optically always referencing that background, So you don't need to, once again, draw a background in every panel.
What's the philosophy behind that? Do you guys know? Like, is there a philosophy behind that kind of? Because I know it's very much what is it? Who the playwright with the gun? What was the name?
Oh, Chekhov. If you introduce a gun, it's got to go off. It's got to shoot.
Yes.
Right?
So is that kind of a philosophy within drawing comics, that if you have an establishing scene in a certain setting, you have to, I don't know, show the dartboard, or make sure?
Oh, that was just. You don't have to, I don't think. I just think it's maybe a good idea if you have, because you said, Ray, that you didn't say indicators, but to me, it's like indicators, right? Like if you establish something in the bigger picture, then you can use those little bits, like wherever you're pouring the beer, maybe you just draw the beer thing next to the guy. Then the person over by the pool table, maybe you show a pool stick or a ball or an 8-ball, whatever. Like there are ways to do all kinds of storytelling. And I used to employ a lot of that when I worked with Harvey Picar, because Harvey just drew stick figures that were talking usually, right? So you would have to read his script to figure out what the scene, how to figure out a scene, because he wasn't describing the scene necessarily. And so in that, I would have to use all kinds of tricks to get away from just two heads talking or one head talking to another talking head. So it'd be more interesting to at least read and then find something that gestures or something that would add value to the narrative.
Yeah. So Vito, and here's the thing about the writer aspect of it, especially with Webtoon. You got this whole group creating this Webtoon. And the writer out of the studio actually is doing 5 Webtoons. And
I didn't know this.
Yes. And a lot of them is the same writer. So your ass is working too.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. At that point.
So everybody's, for sure. Yeah.
But my question is, and again, we talk about the industry a lot here, is so you're describing when you're describing trying to get the trains running on time, which is part of our theme here, I guess. But you get one page, and to do one page, I was doing everything, right? But of course, I wasn't producing the volume, as it were, right? To produce the volume, you have the assembly line that we're used to in our comic books growing up. And when we pick up a comic book today, there's 5 or 6 people basically making the comic book, right? For the monthly comic book, the franchise. But in a webtoon, it's almost like you're adding more labor to get it out more, more comics on a weekly basis, right? So my question is, how much is everybody getting paid? There's no way
So
they're paying
I don't mind
$1,000 a page.
revealing it. I don't gatekeep. I don't gatekeep. So yeah, I'm very open. And so, okay, first let me give you a little more background. Um, uh, as Shayla told me, I'm basically running a teaching hospital for comic book artists,
Yeah.
and I'm house. So everybody in my crew is not seasoned. I'm teaching them not just the craft, but how to navigate the industry.
How many in your crew right now?
There's three main comic book artists, and there's two illustrators. They do a bunch of different things. Designing and stuff like that.
But can we
So
rewind for a second? Can we rewind? We're
yeah,
talking about a project that was called what, Vito? Because I don't know what this is. I want to give a little context to what this is.
Okay, so the project was called DC Power. It came out at the end of January. It was in kind of celebration of Black History Month. It was DC Power, The Rise of the Power Company. Power Company was a franchise that I believe Kurt Busiek created in the.
I think Kurt did do it. Yeah, and it was, I don't want to say it was successful, but it had a cult following.
Yeah, definitely. And Ray leveraged his, I don't want to say celebrity, but leveraged his position to get.
Far from that.
Well, yeah, but like basically, but he leveraged his position to get the other members of his studio work within the same comic. I think in the sequence that you were working on, right?
Yeah, totally.
And this is a DC comic.
Yes.
DC Powers DC.
Oh, yeah. And
Ray,
Dean, next month we do the sequel, and it'll be the first time that this has happened for an artist in this way, because they've done it with letterers studios, and they've done with coloring studios, but they have not done this with the line art. I will be credited as Ray Anthony Height and Studio Skye-Tiger. That hasn't happened. So
that has never happened.
Yeah.
That has never happened. And we also know that if you were paying attention as a kid, you'd see like the writer, the penciler, and then the inker was like many hands, or maybe like 9 acres, right?
Yes.
Same idea, right? Like
it is the same idea.
And so that's amazing. And so wow, I want to pick that apart, because one thing you wrote recently, I think online, was you felt like you were opening a school here, and I thought, oh, are you teaching? Are you mentoring? Well, you are mentoring, but were you mentoring as a side gig, like teaching comics plus making comics?
Yeah, it all started, and this man has seen me do it.
He means
so
me.
when I'm at yes, that's this man. And so when I'm at a show, man, like people come to me and artists come to me and ask me for advice. And I can't help myself, Dean. I end up teaching a freaking class, and then I have a crowd around me, and people are just, yeah. You do the same thing, right?
Yeah, no.
I can't help it.
Like,
you can't help it.
It's a thing. Like I've actually, when Ray and I have tabled together, either at Chicago or at Long Beach, there we will hold court, and it would just be, it's the funniest thing, because the crowd is big. Nobody's buying anything. But
nobody's buying a damn thing.
But everybody is being taught something, which is crazy. And it's two different lessons happening at the same time. And the funniest thing is, at one of the Long Beaches, I watched one guy go back and forth between us because he was trying to learn from both of us at the same time. It was very, very funny. I think Matt Major was there too, behind the table with us. So it was like, and I've seen Dean do it too. It's not the same thing as a portfolio review. Let's say it's not that at all. They might show their art, or they might say, "Can you read this?" And I'll give them the same advice that Eric Larson gave me, which is, "No, I can't read this because you're my competition." Which I like, but I'll talk to them about process and things like that. And it's a fun. I don't, it's just kind of like what Ray said a second ago, is that like, I don't gatekeep, like I'm happy to bring more people in. And I think the advantage of this mindset is that we get better work out of it. And if
we do,
if I'm, looked at it as a kind of authority figure or somebody that knows something, and I'm imparting my knowledge to somebody that doesn't know, and they end up doing comics like me, then at least we're getting two people thinking the same, having the same aesthetic, and like it's at least twice as good. At least. The best
Yeah.
thing though is, for somebody to take that advice and move on and get into their own voice and stuff. But
And
I can't
speaking to
imagine.
that,
Yeah.
sorry, speaking of that, and
No,
sorry,
no.
Ray, this is our
And I'll go
conversational
back,
style.
Dean. I'll go back and answer and Vito your question too about whether these people get
All
paid
right.
and stuff. I'll
Um,
answer that, but I want to hear what you have to say first, and I'll
well, I
answer
was gonna
all.
say thanks. I was gonna say one thing I've learned as a growing editor, let's call it, because I write and draw and all that stuff, but also like you guys, I get asked all the time. I just got an email yesterday from somebody who saw me do a lecture with Klaus Janson and Marty Keene and a couple other cartoonists at the Art Students League, and they want to come by the studio and ask me a lot of questions, and I'm like, yeah, it's a lot. I mean, I'm going to be stopping my work or whatever I need to do or hustle, whatever it is I'm trying to get by to help someone else. But like I said, I can't help myself, and I do think it's important. But one thing I've learned as a quote editor is, for instance, Vito, if you sent me a script or something, what I've learned is to not impose myself on your script.
Right.
Is if something isn't working or if I don't understand something for clarity purposes, I'm going to ask you questions about your script, or your idea, because I can write a version of other people's ideas, but why would I do that? Like there's no reason for that,
Yeah, I think when Ray and I were doing Action Verse, I was
mhm.
writing. I wrote the Midnight Tiger issue, which number one,
He's so hard on himself about Dean. I just want you to know.
very hard
And I
on
was like,
myself
dude, it was totally fine.
because it was it
Have you
didn't.
met Vito? He's the Eeyore of
I know,
comics.
man. Like, yeah, I know.
But what the thing is like, and when I wrote the Midnight Tiger miniseries, Stronger, I used Ray as kind of an editor in that respect, where it's like,
Mhm.
I don't want you to tell me what you would do, but just tell me if this works within the framework of what you've established.
Absolutely, of course, for
And I
continuity,
thought
Right.
they did a good job. I mean, like for me, because what we were trying to do was really with Stronger capture a little bit more of the all ages kind of feel.
Mhm.
And to me, it worked. It worked production wise. Other stuff didn't work.
Yeah.
Right. Outside of the production.
Right.
But on its own, I wish I could compile it and then do one of those like little short 5 by whatever, and then hand it to like a 10-year-old. You know what I'm saying? Like, it would be great to do that.
you
So
mean like a comic starter kit, a comics guide type
yeah,
thing? Yeah,
I
yeah,
think
yeah,
it would be great. It would be really, really great.
yeah, yeah.
But yeah, so and with the action verse stuff, you know, I know Vito had a rough because he was doing editorial, but we had a really good fucking time.
Time out.
Oh, sorry,
Time
I didn't
out.
mean to cut.
Editorial, lettering on every issue.
Yeah, I didn't even mention that.
I edited every issue. I wrote two.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I didn't letter one issue, but yeah, I worked on almost every book.
But
Almost
going
every
back to
book.
the mentoring thing, under
Oh
not as
yes.
a mentor, but as a overseer who
Art
is a
director.
who
I
art
call
director
myself an art director.
and a
Yeah.
showrunner of sorts,
And
right?
I've called myself that as well. Yes, yes.
So I
You
mean,
know the hat.
oh, I
So
do.
yeah.
But what I've discovered was when I was like helping out people and like I co-founded Activate, which is a webcomics collective started on LiveJournal. You start to herd cats, and you're trying to convince introverted artists like, no, you're good, and you should promote yourself. And do I need to
We're
hold your hand on
psychologists.
everything? So what?
I said
Right?
we're psychologists. But right now, what you just said, I'm dealing with that right
So
now.
that's what I want to talk to you
Right.
about in learning this. Like, so there's teaching someone quickly how to like color or whatever, or letter or something, and then they're good enough and they go off on their own and they're supposed to be helping you.
Yeah, right.
but then you discover, oh, maybe they're not up to snuff, or they're having doubts, and then it becomes, you become a therapist and all this other stuff,
Yes.
and you're like, and it impedes your own work. So, so what is the quotient, if you can, of like the pros and cons, the negatives and the positives of this thing that this not collective, what did you call it?
Studio is what
It's
he
a
Studio.
qualified
studio.
name.
Your
Yeah.
studio.
I mean, it really is. It is a studio, and so okay, so reveal here, but not for Vito. Online, I'm super nice. You see him laughing already?
Yeah, because I'm the same way, man.
Yeah,
Like
yeah, yeah. I mean,
to break it down a little bit more for people that are watching, we've always said that this podcast sprung out of phone conversations that Dean and I have whenever I'm driving home from work or whatever. And they're always like these long, protracted conversations. I swear to Jesus, God in heaven, a 3-hour phone call with Ray once when I was driving to New York.
oh yeah,
Like
oh God.
we used to do, so it's a very similar vibe. So one of the themes of our conversations is how how often
I
can
know
we
what you're gonna
say I
say.
don't care without saying I don't
I
care
don't care.
about
Yeah,
something and not seem callous. Like
yeah.
there are like little issues that come up in the comics industry, where you're just like, that doesn't, I don't care about that, and
I
just
don't
like
care about
I
it.
want to just move on. You know what I mean?
Can I use an
We're,
example if I don't care? Right, real
Sure.
quick.
yeah, yeah. Go ahead.
So this morning, I don't know how he keeps showing up on our show, Vito, but Chris Miskevich once again texted me,
We just gotta get him.
What?
Just gotta bring
and
him on.
we gotta get we should. He texts me something about Transformers and goes, "Wow," and I'm like, dude. I said, I can't wait to click this link and look at it on my tiny phone. And he knows better to not send it to my phone, to send it to my laptop, because I don't have a Mac. I have a PC, so it's not synced, right? So I'm always pissed
Right.
off that he's sending me these articles. So I'm like, what's up? And he wrote, they made $2 million in like 2 minutes, right? So I see what he's just like, oh my God, the Transformers, I guess
Crowdfunding thing, right?
omnibus by Skybound
Skybound, yeah.
crowdfunded 2 million in 2 minutes or something, right? And I wrote
Right.
back to him because he's like, holy crap. And I wrote, Transformers sells itself. There is no news here. And I wrote Kareen into Chris. And why I said that was because I've been doing this Lean into Dean initiative in the last couple of years. And it's like, you got it. Who cares about that? That's great for them. I don't care. Care about you right now. What are you making today? Like, where
What's the
you're not going to make
podcast
$2
been
million
on my
in
life?
2 minutes, but what are you doing, man?
You're
Come on.
episode 15, brother.
That's
I know. I saw the number, and I was like, first of all, I was insulted, right? Right? Because I'm like, I talk to this dude semi-regularly, and not once in 15 freaking episodes has he invited me to the show.
That's not true. How did you by episode 12, if not 10? I know it was some.
Oh, that's true. So not the first 5.
Right. We were still getting our legs, man.
I
love
was
you.
too. I was so busy, but
I don't care. I love you.
Same. I'm gonna tell you this. First of all, Dean, I think we spoke before, but we never spoke like this. And
never. Yeah.
I'm loving every bit of this because you are talking to me on such a level, right? Because the I don't care, Vito and I will get on our Tommy Lee Jones shit in a minute. Like, I didn't kill my wife.
I don't care.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
Right.
I don't care. That doesn't concern me.
Right.
Right? So there's a piece of that in my studio where my mentor was Dennis Cowan.
Oh, Dennis. I worked real quick, 1985. I'm assisting Bill Sienkiewicz on New Mutants and Elektra Assassin. And who's sitting next to me? Dennis.
Oh.
And he was working on, was it Vigilante or V? V. Remember the TV show that had a comic book? V.
The aliens, yeah.
The alien show, and I think he even drew me in there. Oh, and I do remember him drawing a Vigilante story where he cast Clint Eastwood, basically to play. Anyway, and Michael Davis was the other guy in that room, and then down the hall was Chaykin, Simonson, and why am I blanking on his name? A third dude. whose name escapes me. Oh, Jim Sherman. Jim Sherman. Anyway,
No,
but
no,
yeah,
no.
Dennis. So you had Dennis.
Yeah, and it was for almost a year, almost a year. And he was
Where?
At Warner Brothers at the time,
In
and then we
California?
were working on Static. He was working on Static, and that's where I met Dwayne. That's where I met Paul Dini. That's where I met Steve Root. He introduced me to a lot of people, and it was a good time. I was a kid, you know, and I mean not a kid. I was definitely like almost mid-20s, so early 20s, and I just saw Dennis at WonderCon, and he's like, "Yeah, you know, you came to me fully formed." I was like, "Not really." I said, "There was habits that I had that you broke, you know, and
Nice.
I got reformed, you know, in a different way." But having Dennis Cowan, like his mentors were harsh, and he's telling stories about Denny O'Neil and how hardcore he was. I got that trickle down,
Mm. Mm-hmm.
right? Like, so in my studio, I'm like, and I'm nice until, you know, I know that's not getting through to you. So I'm like, what's up with this? It's not good. This is not good. Or just tell me up front, like, are you having trouble with this or whatever? I will teach anybody anything, but you know, it's one of those things where it's like, well, we have to get certain things done or whatever. Now, here's what's crazy. Full circle. Vito talked about when we were at C2E2. No, not C2E2.
Comic
It
Con
was
Revolution.
one of the people who came to see me that was in that group is now a part of my studio and one of the best people in my studio. Full circle. So, uh, you know, I teach harshly, um, and but not. It's like I was told I teach carrot, carrot, stick.
Mm. Mm.
Right? And I, no lies detected there. That is how I teach. You know, I praise you when you're awesome.
And some people just want the stick, you know what I'm saying? Like, and then
Well,
you
yeah,
start
well, yes.
realizing, what
Some
the
people
hell?
choose violence. You know? Yeah,
So
some people choose violence.
I've used a tactic in a mentoring thing right now where like, yes, I'm trying to impart wisdom and like it's all wide open and here's a pretty good way of making comics, right? And then when sometimes the person shows me the thing and I realize, oh, there's a real big problem here, right? What I've started to do now is go, tell me what's wrong on this page,
Yes, yeah, I do the same thing, Ding. Like,
right?
what's wrong?
What's wrong
But
here?
isn't it your favorite part when they see it and that
Yes.
expression? Yes, it's
And
my
they go,
favorite
they
part.
smack their head and like, damn it. And you're like, good,
Yep,
you're learning, you saw
you're
it.
learning.
It's right, right.
Yeah, and
That's
that's the
awesome.
most rewarding thing. So it happens a lot. And I kid you not, I just sent out evaluations this week, and it was on a scale from 1 to 5, 5 being outstanding, no notes, like, and 1 being, you know, you need help. Like you, I don't know if you essentially going to be here that long. And everybody was like,
One comes with an ad for being a plumber or an electrician.
pretty much, exactly. Like, do you have a math degree? So it's, but everybody in the studio is like, you know, 3 point something and above.
Okay, but let
But
me ask you this.
nobody's a 4. So
Oh,
we're dead center. We're slightly above average. Everybody here can do. They have the chops in about the end of the year. Some of them are. I hope they're probably going to listen. Some of them actually are ready now. It's a mindset thing that they have to.
right, right.
Right.
Well, I mean, in terms of mindset, I think, and Vito, you're the king of this. I mean, I have doubt all the time. The last 2 days, I forgot how to draw, and I don't know what's going on, you know. But I did start writing instead because, like, that's what you always try to do something else. When you get a
Yeah.
block, you got to unblock it by doing something else. Or I do at least, you know. But let me ask you this, like, real talk. I have an ego the size of Nebraska. Okay, so like if I were to spark a studio, let's say I had the money that could pay for a studio, and I understand the concept behind the studio is to meet deadlines, to crank out more stuff, as it were, right? Or whatever the job requires. I might have a tough time. Like if I didn't like I'm good with like someone coloring, someone lettering. But if like I was doing layouts, and then someone else did pencils, and then I did some inks on the figures, but other people like that kind of style of like bouncing
That's
around.
how I do it.
That's how you do it. Do you feel might be the wrong word, but like ownership still because it's a
Yeah,
studio?
because I'm the penciler. I'm the layout artist. And
Your
here's the
name comes
thing.
first. It's Ray Anthony
My
Height.
yeah, my exactly. My
I
name
don't
comes
mean
first.
credit wise. I mean
No, but what I'm
No,
saying,
just
spiritually.
ownership of the work.
Right.
Right?
what I'm
Like,
saying
okay,
is, I
so this
think that with his name coming first, he has to make sure that the quality is up
He
to
signs off on everything.
right.
Right.
yes, I do.
Right.
It is okay, so I'll give you the process. I'll get an assignment, I'll read the script, I'll determine how many pages go where and to whom. I do all the layouts. There are some layouts that I do where the pencils are tight, and some, depending on who I give it to, and some where I have relied on certain people to do a little bit more. So we've all seen John Buscema's layouts when he'll give it to Tom Palmer, right? So
Can you explain that for
rarely,
the just can you visualize that for the people listening and watching?
okay, so oh man, I
It's
wish
very
I had
gestural.
more
It's
aids,
gestural
man.
drawing, right? Like
So
it's
yeah,
more gestural.
it's gestural. Your underlying structure and kind of style is there in the gesture. Your shape, there you go. If you're an artist, you get this. Your shape language and all that's there. It's just not all the fancy rendering and detail, right? That's there. I do that maybe 30% of the time. But my process is this. Most of my pencil, if you've seen my layouts, and you two should have seen my layouts. I post the shit all the time. Vito's seen them a
I know
plenty. So they're tight. So when I say my layouts are loose, they're loose for me, but they might be finished pencils for somebody else.
Right.
So I send those out to the people, to my crew who are, make no bones about it. All of them are freaking talented. They all. And they work freaking hard. And they're there because they work hard, not because they're talented.
Did you select them specifically?
I did. I
Okay.
did. I did. Yeah, I cherry picked them, and I had Studio Skye-Tiger version 1. Oh, and just for plugging sake, this is my mouse pad. So this is our news.
Nice.
So
Elevate.
we a few of them didn't make it to version 2. They had different reasons, Some of them were already working. I had Anthony Fowler Jr., who is an inker at DC, and has done work on the same book we're talking about.
Mm.
So, and I told Anthony, I said, you don't need me. You're already in. But as I have gotten linked, and they're my little family,
Mm-hmm.
and no one wants to go. Everybody wants to kind of stick around and stay. So the next thing is I give that, and they ink and they do tones. And then they come back to me. I'm looking at it at every process, Dean, every stop. They come, if they have a question, they ask me. The communication level is top notch in my studio. And when they are done, if we're on a hard deadline, I just say, give me the page as is, then I finish it.
Mm-hmm.
There might be things that I tweak or whatever. Let's say sometimes I don't ever have to redo anything. I might have to tweak maybe some faces or add a little something where I think it could be, but for the most part, everybody in the studio is pretty solid.
Is that disciplinary when you have to take it back? Like, do you?
No.
Okay.
No, it's not at all. Mostly it's deadline stuff, But let's get into another thing. It's branding also.
Right.
So when my editor, Marquis Draper, who is fantastic, very, very smart guy. And I had another great editor, because that's not the first book Studio Skye-Tiger worked on. Actually, the first DC book they worked on was the Aquaman tie-in I did with Black Manta.
Right, the movie tie-in.
Yeah. So, that was really the true first one for DC. We had done other things. So you guys heard of the Defiant thing that's popping up with the story of Robert Smalls, and it's through Legion M.
Yes.
We worked on it too.
You and
Look
I
it up.
Yeah.
We definitely, you know, everything I'm doing, dude. So
I mean, I try.
it's well, you tried to, but yeah. So we worked on all those things. There's a lot of stuff that is not out, that's not being seen, that we've done. DC and the people behind all that stuff, especially Draper, Chris Conroy, all of them, they're great. They're great, and allowing me to put my studio name and helping me do that is man, I owe them big. They have a way to get to me, even though they know that I'm producing my own work now. I'm concentrating on all my creator own stuff. They're like, we'll get back to you when we have something that's worth your time.
Right.
So and I
I
don't mean to
pay
make it
them
about
$100 a page for full inks.
so what kind of how are you getting this like did you strike a deal with DC to spark your studio, or do you have your studio and the budgets change according to jobs?
The budgets change according to jobs. I would say 45% of the time.
Okay.
Sometimes people just don't have the budget
Right.
because, you know, our page rate, you know, is for pencils, inks, colors, and letters is
Mm-hmm.
$450 per page.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Right? That's fair, right,
Then
guys?
you break it up. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I break it up. Some
Right.
people can't afford that, but it depends on the work.
I was gonna
If the
say most
work,
people can't afford that because I think it's only a couple of top tier companies and then companies outside of comics can probably pay you anything
yes,
you ask, really, to be honest, depending on the company, because they don't know about page rates or whatever. And like what I would like to get, real talk, what I would like to get to write, draw, provide line art, color and lettering is 500 a page is what I would like to
yeah,
get.
that's the dream. I would love to have that for the company. I
Right.
love it. Yeah.
And more, obviously, I always take more, but like, and sometimes you'll work with a company that just pays you like $20,000 to do a 10-page booklet or something. You're like, but that's
Every
rare,
time I've
like
worked
that.
in Hollywood, that's what
Yeah,
happens.
that's yeah.
20 pages, 10 grand.
But in most cases, most publishers not only can't really give you any kind of a healthy advance, but they're also crowdfunding it and hoping that your fan base will be backing it so that
Yes.
then they can give you almost nothing of an advance. And then there's the back end deal, which is like, okay, well, we'll see, but I'm not
Yeah,
relying on
we'll see.
any back
Right.
end.
We'll see. Yeah.
You
So
know,
it's
Depending on
Dean, you brought up crowdfunding, and I know, Ray, you, in one of your recent Kickstarter updates, you have a new approach to Kickstarter. And I'll cop to the fact that I was kind of confused by what you were getting at. So I wanted to, take this opportunity to kind of learn from you what your approach to crowdfunding is at this point. Yeah.
I don't want to release any books if all the line art isn't done. That's like, right?
Yeah, that's
and,
smart.
And the other part is I'm learning from people like Charlie Stickney, who is freaking brilliant.
Fire and Ash, I think it's his book, right?
Yeah, it's a White Ash. It's a Glare. He's got a bunch of titles. The dude's got a library, but he built it over the course of 7 years. And Pat Shand, he's another person. I talked to Brian Polito at Emerald City Comic Con. Brian's got things going on.
Jimmy Palmiotti is
Jimmy
probably
Palmiotti,
like
yes,
the godfather of,
I was just gonna say Jimmy is like royalty there. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So,
and when it comes to Pat Shand, real quick, because I want to give context to these, throwing out these names. Pat Shand, who I've met a few times, I really like this guy, and he's got a good thing going. But what really helps is, and I think this is one of the things that recommends crowdfunding and or Kickstarter, because it's what he uses a lot, is that he's publishing comics that Marvel and DC won't, meaning porn. Okay, so. And I think that that's actually like he's serving a part of the industry for certain mature adults that are they want some TNA, they want some sex
the things
in
we
their
got
stories.
in the 80s and 90s.
Exactly. So I think part of the fact that he's leaning into that is also quite helpful, So, but going to your comment about having the line art done, I try to get as much as my line art done so that you're right during the campaign. Not only am I campaigning, but I'm rocking the colors and letters so that within a month or maybe two tops, it's in your hands because
you're done.
It's going to the right.
And people love it. People, because I'll tell you what's great about the Kickstarter community. Once you got them on a series, they're fairly loyal, and
Yeah.
they just recommend stuff, whatever. They keep coming back and all that, but which is very different. And the marketing. I mean, sure, it's all us and everything, but the price point and the revenue breaks and all that, we get more of the piece.
Yeah.
But
And we're
also, I have dared to charge more than $5 for a 24-page comic
of
by
course.
three times that, because it is more artisanal, because
Yes.
I have nothing against retailers, and I wish I could be in the bookstores because I have been missing for many years in the bookstores proper or the comic shops. But the business is changing a lot. I would even hazard, and we've discussed this, Vito, with other creators. The future might be, as much as I love print, I cherish print. The future might be how to charge healthily for a PDF,
Yes.
or a digital version, let's say, of the comic. And then maybe what you do is you do the issues in digitally, right? But then you collect it in print as a luxury edition or something, right?
That's it. So we're talking about my model for Kickstarter.
That's kind of
I
what you
had
did with the Midnight Tiger stuff.
So that's what's happening now. And
Yeah.
it's I'm blending. So I'm a student of the industry, not just making the comics, but selling them. That is what makes people like Webtoon and Viz and what is it? Is it Hive? The right. So they'll launch a Kickstarter for their the things that's on Hive, and they'll do like 86,000, 50-some thousand, whatever, for a web comic that's been part of that group. It's because the fans are there, and if you give it to them piecemeal, all right. So when this thing's launching, I'm giving you guys the game for free. if you do it piecemeal for free, and then do an actual print book, it will sell, because the free stuff is getting you the fans.
Well,
Then
here's
you got.
here's a
Oh, go
question
ahead.
that I've always had an issue with anything free. Like I have no qualms about just handing somebody my comic. On a Sunday at Baltimore, everyone's getting something before they go home. Not because I
Nice.
don't want to take it home with me, but because I want everybody to read something. But so I have no issue with free. But the thing I always find is there's always this argument over what the value of something is. So when someone perceives something as being free, they sometimes perceive it as being not invaluable, but not valuable at all. And then some people
Right.
do find it as invaluable, But how do you strike that balance? That's a real issue,
It's
I
a
think.
mindset thing, because that's what's going on with a lot of other companies. They want their things to have value, and it does. But everyone here on this call is storytellers, right?
Hmm.
Once we love a thing, we'll spend money on a thing. It's hard to spend money on a thing you don't love.
By
So
the way, how
that is
much money are we asking for? Not that much.
Yeah.
no,
That's
and
the other
that's the
thing.
beauty, right? That's the beauty of it. We're not asking for a lot of money. I think we have both had people buy a $10 PDF,
Yeah, absolutely.
right? And they do it.
Yes.
They do it. Everything is on the internet these days. People are on their phones. I want you right now, everybody at the same time, grab your phone. This is the answer.
Mhm.
Access.
Oh, I was going to say, Anthony, like trying to get somebody's money is secondary. The first thing is
Yes.
trying to get their time,
Yeah.
their
Yes.
attention.
That's it. Their attention, their heart, right? So once you do that, there are people right now that are still talking about Midnight Tiger and Stray. That book came out how long ago?
Yeah.
Right? And so, when I'm revealed, there's a reveal that's coming on Monday, guys. Did I tell you, Vito, what the reveal is, or the cameos? I know I did.
No, but I did see your Instagram update, I think yesterday,
You
that
saw it?
you had a list of characters. So
Please don't say this.
You people on your vague
I know
booking.
when this. Hold on. I'm gonna do something cool for when this drops. Okay?
Let me explain
which is Monday. It'll be Monday.
I know it's gonna be fun.
Episode will come up as well. Like this episode will be up on Monday morning. But let me explain something to everyone about Ray and I. We've been friends for almost as long as
20
years, I think, like at least 20 years, if not more. And we were fans of each other before we became friends. And what happened was, we had two different books at Ape Entertainment. Like I had the Mercury Chronicles, and Ray had Protostar, I think it was, right?
Yeah, it was Protostar then.
And we were on the message boards, and we were like, oh man, I really like your work. One of these days I want to work with you. Yeah. Oh man, I really like your work. We should work together someday. And I'm like, hey, and I said this with you never know what's going to happen in the future. And I said, if you ever need to use anything of mine for your book to whatever, to establish like a golden age or establish anything, feel free. I will always consider my stuff in your universe. Even though we don't have a collective universe, that's the kind of thing that I think that I go back to Mark Waid when I did the 100 characters into the public domain. It builds the community. It builds the lore of what comics can be. So fast forward, Stray gets signed to Action Lab Entertainment because of Ray, because they didn't want to publish it because they thought Stray looked too much like Midnight Tiger. And it was like, you're stupid. This is a great look. This is a great book. You should just.
It's a great looking book. And I'm the one that told them, I said, if you're trying to build this universe,
right? Because
Molly Danger was already there. And Jamal and I were already friends. And so it just became this group of friends. And I think you know what? I might even blame myself that planted in Brian's head about the thing. But it works.
But we also kind of bulldozed.
Look at your phone.
What's that?
Look at your phone.
Okay.
Don't say what's there, but look at your phone.
I'm going to send Dean a screenshot just so he can see it. But
so now I want to.
So it'll come out. It'll drop Monday, and that's only one of that's a big cameo, by the way.
Yeah.
But wait, let's go back to Midnight Tiger for a second and give context to that, which is a creator-owned book, right?
Yes.
You're working now in franchise comics, which pays. Doing self-publishing or creator-owned comics might pay less, which is often the case. Have you abandoned Midnight Tiger? What's going on?
It's the opposite. 20% of my work is freelance, and 80% is all creator-owned. So I literally that's why DC knew I was doing the Midnight Tiger thing. And so I had a deal when I told Marvel and DC and the editors came to see me. I said, I'm going to be doing my own thing. If you can find me projects that are 10 pages or less, I will do them, or covers. Otherwise, I'm off. I can't do it. DC was the first to do it. And then they got what I sent them and they kept doing it. Mm-hmm. Right.
That's awesome. That's great. Great.
So that's what it is. Did you see what he sent you, Dean?
He did. I got. That's awesome. That's awesome.
So
I love that.
When you talk about Midnight Tiger, that's part of Midnight Tiger.
That's great. That's great. I mean, and talking in the spirit of that, that's something that me, Vito, Charlie McElvey of Zion, and actually Jamal lives a few blocks from my studio. I'm in Red Hook, near 10th Street, where he's like down the block, and I used to see him all the time with his dog, whatever. But like there is like, there's a sense of like being other people's property or your property or, territory and all this stuff. But like, I do think that spiritually, like, we as creators should allow our characters to meet at the crossroads. And we will expand by just having a little cameo. A reader might be like, who the hell is that? I want to find out more of that. Oh, well, there's a comic book right over here for you. Like, and I think we can do that for each other a lot.
We could, because somebody was on my list, but I forgot to ask them.
Just do it now.
Uh-oh.
So can Red Hook join?
If he hasn't, I'll be pissed off.
I mean,
Of course,
that's on
man.
the internet, people. That's forever.
That's
Yeah,
forever,
so
ever.
it's locked in. Like it's a cool since it's gonna drop anyway, and essentially what I sent Vito, and now you know, Dean,
Yeah.
those two, because they're dimensional travelers.
Mm-hmm.
If
Mm-hmm.
you read the story, you know, like people would know. They get brought in and they kind of uh, expose Gavin to
Gavin
the
being
different,
Midnight Tiger.
yeah,
Right.
being Midnight Tiger, the different versions of him that exist, and there's things that he should know and things that he shouldn't know.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
So the thing that I
So
always
that's why Stray and Molly show up, because it will validate everything that was done in Action Lab, like I told Vito I would do.
Mhm.
Mm.
But in this, in the, let's call it the prime world of Midnight Tiger, Vito and Stray are creators. Like Gavin wears a Stray sweater,
Yeah, in one of the Evo.
and he's neighbors with the Del Santes.
Wow. That's awesome.
Yeah,
And that's
I
what I mean. Like, that's what I mean. Like, people are so hung up on continuity and how that could possibly happen.
exactly what I was
They
going to
are,
say.
yeah, yeah.
You're gonna say, right? Like,
Yeah,
you just do it. You just
yeah.
do it, and people
Just
accept it.
do it.
You know.
We do what we want.
When we did Purple Heart, there was a scene where there's something happening in Dean's neighborhood, and it's like a confrontation between OMG, One Man Gang, and uh, Purple Heart. And I was like, well, this is Dean's neighborhood. He should just be there. And we put Dean in the book, and Dean is
I
on his
love it.
bike and he's sitting there with a hoodie and he's just like watching everything happen because it only made sense, like it's a very kind of exclusive story that New Brooklyn was. So why wouldn't Dean be there?
But also, if I may, and thank you for that, Vito, and thank you as well, Ray, for including me in your mythology. But I
Oh,
also
for sure.
think that comics are super meta on all levels, right?
right?
On all levels,
And
yes.
like, oh my God, is Ray writing about himself as a superhero? Gee, I can't believe it. Is Vito writing himself as a
Right.
like, am
Right.
I writing myself? Like, that's what we're doing in lots of
That's
ways,
what we're doing.
and I don't care how many comics Mark Waid writes for DC or Marvel, he's writing himself and what comes from his heart,
He's Superman,
as an
no matter what.
example.
Yeah,
So
for
like,
sure.
to me, like, it's already there, and it's not even like you're saying it by doing it. Just do it, and no one's going to argue. I mean, if you're going to argue, then you're an idiot anyway. Like, shut up. But like, with that's what we're doing here. We're spending an inordinate amount of time on blank pieces of paper to convey something that means something to us. And if it means something to us, it means we're giving a part of ourselves out there.
Yes.
And it is us. That's why.
Well, Dean, let's not downplay it. What we do is create worlds. That is our job.
Absolutely.
We create worlds, and every time we sell it, we put it out, we're inviting people to experience that world.
Right.
That's
Absolutely.
it. That's what we do. That's what we're in the business of.
Yep.
So on Monday we have this big reveal. Where can everybody see that? We're not ending the show, by the way. I just want to make sure that everybody knows ahead of time.
That would be quite the way to end it, right?
Oh yeah. Let's end it right now.
Oh no, I have some questions.
Yeah.
If I can answer them, I will. But
you already have, and I wanted you to respond on our podcast because there's such beautiful things you said, and you'll see what I mean when I bring it up.
Oh, okay. So yeah, it'll be on Facebook, it'll be on Instagram, and it'll be on Blue Sky. Those 3 spots. I may or may not deal with the Hell site. I don't know. I've been kind of like whatever. But those 3, it'll be there, and it'll just, and I'm telling you guys so much, it'll just be the logos.
Nice.
It'll just be the logos of some of those those cameos.
Okay, Dean, go ahead.
Well, did you have, Vito, a couple something?
I have one thing that I want to say for right before we end our conversation.
Okay, and is there anything topical we want to talk about this week that might have been topical?
Do you know what I want to talk about, actually? I want to talk about something we weren't able to get to last week because we had our special episode
right.
Test Space. But Val Kilmer, it got brought up by Pete Rostovsky towards the end of our show last week, but we didn't really get to dive into it. I am honestly, you know, it's weird when somebody's death actually affects you, somebody that's like that you don't know that is a celebrity, somebody that you've never met, and like I'm still kind of reeling from it. Like I'm still kind of trying to come to terms with it. Val Kilmer, I think we could name a million great roles that he's played. Mad Mardigan in Willow, Batman for God's sake, Jim Morrison, Doc Holliday. Um, he was in that weirdo Brando Island of Dr. Moreau, which I have
Oh
a
yeah,
weird affinity
Right.
for.
It was.
But
Top
I hear
Secret or whatever it was
Top
called.
Secret, Real Genius. He was in Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, which was written by Shane Black, starring Robert Downey Jr. before he did Iron Man.
He
Yes.
was in a sequel
Great
to
movie.
Bad Lieutenant, a sequel to Bad
That's
Lieutenant,
right.
directed by Herzog.
Yeah, that's right. Of all people. Um, but I think the thing that I can say definitively about him is even before he passed, when the Val documentary came out on Amazon, which if you haven't seen, you should check it out. Um, I think he got its flowers, and I think he knew how much he was appreciated and adored by his fans and adored by his co-actors as well. Like just reading the kind of like eulogies by Will Forte, of all people, from the MacGruber movie that Val Kilmer was in. Uh, Tom Cruise talking about his cameo in the last Maverick movie. Um, God, like I can't think of any actor in recent time that wasn't as appreciated as he was. The amount of treatises and goddamn essays and theses written about Doc Holliday in the past week
Oh
have been
yeah.
amazing to read and almost overwhelming.
Yeah. Yeah, and also I think his last video that he posted on Instagram or something was him putting on this like psychedelic Batman cowl with a former, although does he still consider himself a cartoonist? Comic book guy, David Cho.
Yeah,
Uh,
Oh.
that was like the last, and David Cho, who is kind of radical. He's a fine artist who's done comics. Um, and he was even on a TV show, and he was actually an incredible actor on, I forget the name of the show right now. It was like a year or so ago. Um, but yeah, I mean, he was an artist too, Val
yeah,
Kilmer, painting and making Batman art and whatnot, and he just seemed to be a really interesting guy. And what's weird? It's like sometimes when a famous actor or slash celebrity passes away, if they're really old, you're like, well, they had a great life. But he wasn't really old.
no,
But it's weird how, well, they're just a person, and it's sad that they died. But then you do think about the impact of like the roles you just mentioned, or the movies, or the work, and how, I mean, I assume a comic book, a 20-page comic book by Jack Kirby, can do the same thing as a 2-hour movie. But
Oh,
it is
absolutely.
incredible. It did make me think how it's incredible how, like, I don't know, a piece of art, a song, Prince, forever,
That
right?
that that crushed me. Yeah, yeah.
I mean, Prince um, can really impact your life in a very super profound way, to the point where you're like, you elevate the person that made the thing, but not to bring it down to us, but we make things, and we may never make a Purple Rain, ever, and that's fair, because that is next level in some ways, but it is to honor the work we love is to put it into our work, and without ego, without like, oh, I hope I become famous someday. No, I want to become rich. I don't know if I want to become famous, because
Right.
people come out the woodwork and try to cancel you anyway. But but you know what I mean, like to take that inspiration and let that sprinkle into your work. So when you're sitting there going, I can't draw today, I can't write today, what the hell am I doing, why am I doing this, is to remember, oh, the people that you love that inspired you, they probably had a bad day too. Okay, a lot of bad days, and they went on and made some cool stuff. So that's important.
Well, I'll say this, and I posted it on my Instagram and my Facebook, and it reassured me why I do this, even when it's tiring, when I'm frustrated, when I just want to go to sleep. I had a kid come to me at Emerald City Comic Con, and he said, "I love Midnight Tiger. I got this comic when I was 11 years old,
Hmm.
and I read it so much the cover was off of it, and it just floored me. We're doing this for us, but at the end of the day, we're doing it for the kids that used to be us."
Right. Right.
And so he showed me a picture. He sent me a picture of it, and I correspond with him now. And I said, "You don't know what you just did for me. You just reassured me why I do this." And I got that picture. And Vito, guess what issue it was?
Was it number 2, the one that I lettered?
Nope. It was the Free Comic Book Day issue.
The Actionverse Free Comic Book Day with Molly, and it was a free comic.
No, it was his origin, the 12-page origin.
Oh, okay. Oh,
yeah. I want somebody to bring that one up. Yes, it was me and Jeremy. So I want somebody to bring that one up. I want to sign. I have signed issue 0s of Actionverse. That was a good one. I would say some of my best working relationships where I had a lot of fun. It was like when Sean was inking my pencils. That was really cool.
That issue 0, if we never did the Actionverse miniseries, that would have been fine. Because I think it was Jamal, you, me, Sean, I think Nate colored it.
Yeah, Nate colored it. Nate colored that. Did he color everything? All the books?
I think Tom Chu colored a page or two as well. But okay. like the 5 of us, like we're all like guys that we've all worked together in the past. And I think that just it was like watching the Beatles kind of, like
kind of was
putting together something.
Yeah.
It's funny because like
we could feel it though. We were aware of it. You know how sometimes great things happen and the guys aren't aware that this is how cool it is? I think we were pretty aware. We didn't.
Yeah, because it's funny because you look at what was on the table. It was Jamal, who I think we kind of all looked at as kind of a mentor type at that point, even though we were all peers. And then you have Sean, relatively new to the industry, getting to kind of bounce off of you, getting to bounce off of Jamal, getting to bounce off of me. Like I think we all benefited from working with each other, which is I think what comics should be.
Vito, before I ask my last 2 questions and you get to your last thing, was there an aspect to this show tonight where aren't you developing a new comic book with us or something?
Yeah, we're going to get to that at the end.
That'll be at the end.
Oh,
okay.
This is going to ask me, where's my character design?
I'm not going to ask.
Yeah, right. I know he sprung this on me a few weeks ago, and I have no idea what's going on. So.
I just want to raise a glass to Val Kilmer and take a sip in his memory. So,
yep.
There you go. Dean, ask the question.
So, there's something you said, Ray, at the beginning of one of your, I think, Midnight Tiger collections. I'm not sure. I think it was. There were 2 things you said, and I'm going to repeat them to you because you said them. And I want you to maybe expand on them a little bit for our listeners. One thing you said was measure twice, cut once.
Why are you doing this to me?
He did this to Rob Guillory a couple weeks ago, too. That was great. So I'm a fan.
Oh, man. All right. You get me in my feels right now. So my dad says that's like a family thing. And now I know what you're pulling from. So you put him up to this, didn't you, Vito?
I did not. He wanted to read. He wanted to read. I gave him something to read.
Okay, so we have this thing. We're very measured in the things we do. My dad used to build stuff all the time. He's somebody who could rebuild a car from scratch for fun. And, he just liked to build things. He would do woodwork, and he remodeled people's houses. He didn't charge them enough, stuff like that. And his thing growing up, he would say, the only way to mitigate mistakes is to measure twice and cut once.
Mm. Mm.
Take your time. Really pay attention to what it is you're doing and what you want to accomplish, then execute. Don't execute and think later, right? So that's where that came from.
And that plays into your studio, I assume.
Very much so, very much so. Everything we do is measured, and I don't send these guys out until I feel like they got it, even when they don't feel like they got it, because I know.
Right.
I know you're ready. I don't care how scared you are. Just do it. Just do it, because I know you're ready. The only thing is, we were talking about earlier, mindset, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, because creating things is very personal to us as creators. And a lot of us tend to overthink and want it to be perfect and all these kind of things. No, you just need to get it to a point where it's clear, right? It's clear, it's competent, and then you can set it out in the time allotted. If you have time to beautify it, that's great, but don't noodle it to death, because then you're going to start working yourself backwards.
Right.
So we get it. We measure it twice. It was like, okay, is the storytelling in place? Are the notes on the page working? Is this what's in the script? Okay, good. Let's go. If not, let's go back. We got time.
Right.
And if we have more time, I can teach why this doesn't work. So that's basically what we do.
I love it. And the other thing you wrote was, and this is a little more obvious, but it costs nothing to be kind.
Yeah. So that's it. That's why I'm holding class.
Yep.
That's why it's a crowd of people. And that's one thing that's missing, guys. You guys know this. In a world that wants to feed us shit and call it chili, we need to give people something to look forward to be happy about. It doesn't cost us anything. Instead of saying, yeah, we're eating that shit, but we're going to keep eating that shit, because that's what they're giving us. Like, what the hell? You know what I mean? Like, you have a choice. You have a choice to perpetuate the negativity or to inspire people to make things better. That's our choice every day, man. Like, seriously. So what side you want to be on?
And who does that for you?
You guys. My friends, like my friend group's pretty tight. And, even though Del Sante is a curmudgeon from time to time, his heart is so pure, and it's always in the right place.
Thank you, man. Thank you. It's funny. I've had a couple of different health scares, not all my own, where I've reached out to about 6 guys that I'm very close to. The 2 people I'm talking to right now are on that list. And it's because I don't like one of them. I was like, I have this procedure coming up. I have no idea. It was when I got my back surgery. I was like, I have no idea what's going to happen. I don't know, I don't know. Anything can happen. So if anything happens to me, you guys are shepherding Stray, because it's, my legacy. You guys are shepherding Stray until my kids decide they want to do it themselves or not. So like that was, in terms of a will and testament, telling your boys to watch after your kids, not only like your real kid, but your fictional created kid. I think that's as much of a inheritance as anything.
Yep,
for sure. Yeah,
Ray, it's too bad what happened to Stray after Vito died.
I know.
And then Stray died right away too. It was the weirdest coincidence.
And I'm like, Dean, you didn't have to kill him off. I had plans for him.
You know what makes me
Oh,
happy?
you're the good guy. You're the nice one. Okay. All right. I see
You
what
just
happened.
said kindness counts, man. What's wrong with you? Um, what I think is great is that every time I talk to Ray, his dad always comes up. And even in this conversation where it's not just he and I, his dad came up. I love Pop so much. Like I miss him. I got to meet him once, but that meeting was very impactful to me. It got
He
number
really
one,
liked you, man.
it made me feel closer to Ray, which is why my kids call him Uncle Ray because he's like my brother. I felt when I walked into his living room, I felt like I had been there before. It was a very weird feeling, having never been to South Central Los Angeles in my life until that day.
He
And
was in the heart of Compton, Dean.
yeah, yeah.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
Yes.
And
Oh
He
I
yeah.
was.
like it was so, but it was so like it felt like it could have been Staten Island. You know what I mean? Like it
Yeah.
could have been where I grew up in Mariners Harbor and stuff. Like it didn't feel like I was on the opposite side of the country. And part of that is because of him. Part of that is because of Ray and his son, who was there as well. And like I just like that feeling of community and family. Like that I think in comics, a lot of us try to foster anyway. Like we try to in mentoring. We try to do it in collaboration. We try to foster that entire familial feeling, and like I don't think there was any feeling like that. Close to when the only thing I can think of is Ray having a, having a table at Long Beach and Sadie's strollers right there. This is before
Oh
Jake.
God, yeah.
And Sadie's strollers right there, and Ray is just talking to her and trying to
Yeah.
like just
Normal.
like that's who we are.
Well,
Yep.
there's this very, very it's famous to me, and I think it will be quite famous in the future. There's a picture of me, Vito, Jamal, Michelle, Anthony, Sadie,
Mhm.
um,
I think
and
Carlos
Rio.
was. I think Carlos was
Rio's in
there.
it. No, well, was Carlos in it?
I think, or he might have taken the picture because it was at New York
Okay,
Comic Con.
it was. And it's one of the coolest things. Like I used to have it like hanging up at some point, because it was freaking cool. It was like this is what it's all about. It's legacy. It's what we do. Um, you know, and it's funny because every one of our kids are like have dabbled in comics at some point.
Mm, yeah,
Mm. Mm-hmm.
It's
Mm-hmm.
so yeah, man. Like this is it. Like talking to you guys. The community is very powerful,
mm.
and a lot of the people that I trust, you know, implicitly.
Mm-hmm.
They came from
Mm-hmm.
comics.
And don't feel like you're left out of it, Dean. I still have the pictures from one of your signings where you're holding Sadie at Jim Hanley's Universe.
Oh, this is a love fest. I mean, I guess part of why we do this is because we all at the end of the day we're all working alone in a lot of ways, like
Yes.
there's a lot of alone time, and this is why we do this, is to remind each other we still exist, to have these conversations, and to acknowledge each other as human beings and creators that are hopefully making meaningful stuff, so
And I want to touch on that too. Like you hit something really like we connect in a way that transcends race, religion, you know, all that kind of stuff. And I think it is one of the most beautiful freaking things ever. Um, because we see each other as people. If we're looking at each other, it's just the soul.
Mm.
hmm
That's how we see each other. It's just the soul.
I wonder.
hmm
Um,
I wonder if there's not a combination, but there's a connection between the soul of a person and the output that they put out in terms of like the art. Like and
maybe
not. I mean, I know there is one, but I mean how that connects to the next person.
we're all connected.
we're
I
all,
honestly think
yeah.
we're all
I think
connected.
you can't, like, as much as Ray likes to measure things, I don't know if you can measure. I only can measure the connections, but sure, you can figure certain things out. In fact, I've been asking Whitney discovered this really cool article, and I forget who it was, but it was someone who was more contemporary of an artist. And they did a thing where, they were an assistant to someone previous, and there was a whole line of like hundreds of years of going back to not Michelangelo, but let's just say Michelangelo, right? And then their apprentice, and then the person they apprentice, and then like everybody kind of did something really cool. And so I was thinking, oh snap, like I've helped people, so maybe I can say who I have mentored,
That's
but then I have my mentors and who are their mentors and
Mhm.
do that lineage. But that's the whole idea of connecting. It's like we may not like, I mean, listen, that's part of social media, the stuff that's good about social media is when you're scrolling and you're like, oh, that idiot, and you're like, oh, that's cool. And
yeah,
somehow
yeah.
inspires you. And like you weren't even looking for it, right? And something inspires you, whether it's a sentence, an image, a response, or nothing, whatever. It's something random. And somehow that just infuses you or inspires you or somehow shows up in your work later on. You didn't even know it. Where did
Kind of
that come from?
transcends. It kind of transcends social media.
Transcends.
Like
Yeah, it does.
entirely.
It does. And just to give you your flowers, Dean, when I see you post any new Kickstarter, I'm like, fuck. Like he's doing it again, and you got some great stuff and you're building a library.
I'm
You're
trying. I'm
building a
trying.
library. You guys are my inspiration because you're doing the thing that ultimately I've always wanted to do because that's how Vito and I met. Like we're doing creator-owned work. I look at Marvel and DC as like, hey, let's go visit the biggest ball of yarn, kind of thing. It's
Mm-hmm.
on your path to your destination.
Mm-hmm.
And when I see you guys at the destination doing your thing and being not just being your own boss, but when you're working on Red Hood, you are the most Dean Haspiel you can be,
Hmm.
right? Right. So
Right.
that feeling is we're all chasing that feeling, man. Like we all want to be in our essence.
So you're talking about is recognizing when a creator is firing on all cylinders, and how
Exactly.
that, whether or not you read it or see it, doesn't matter. There's an energy to seeing a creator rocking it. You know what I'm saying? Like, and what's weird is I've actually met and I've known people in my own studio who get jealous of that and don't like it and want to knock
I
it
don't
down.
understand that at all. I don't
I
get
don't
it.
get it. It doesn't make any sense because all ships rise with the tide. Whoever is rocking the tide, that day, right? Come on already. And speaking of
Yeah.
transcending, I need to run to the bathroom. I'll be right back. But but Vito, I want to hear your question. So keep him busy
I'll
for a
hold the
minute. All
question
right, hold the
before
Keep me
question.
before that.
busy.
Of course. Uh, but what's
Wow.
funny is, we're talking about how, doing our creator own stuff is kind of like paramount. And like, there's a point where I think I wouldn't call it a necessary evil, but I thought that I had to make those efforts to work at Marvel and DC to validate my creativity or validate my existence in this sphere, I guess. And I don't know, I don't feel that anymore. I think I was forced to stop thinking that way, uh, just based on the fact that I wasn't getting calls or, no matter how many times you or Sean recommended me to an editor, they just weren't reaching out. And so I think at some point I just gave it no second thought, and it's like, it's not worth you know worrying about. And there was a point where you were like, I'm not going to finish Midnight Tiger. Like I
Yeah.
think we had done issue 2. I lettered it
Yeah.
for you, and you're like, that's it. And I don't know how many times I got on your case to finish it. Like I was like, finish it. You got to finish it. You got to finish it.
And I didn't tell you why until later. So did you remember what I told you why I
I
didn't want to
don't.
finish it?
I mean, I know what I told you. Why?
I'll wait till Dean gets back if
Okay.
he gets back enough.
I mean,
But
he might have slipped. He might never come back. And you and I are doing the
so,
podcast you're on.
yeah,
Um,
well, yeah, okay, it's me and you. So when I was brought on to Action Lab by Kevin Freeman, remember
yes,
Kevin?
from
And
Kevin from Ape Entertainment.
exactly, and Jeremy
Mhm.
Dale. Up until then, like I think do you remember when I was doing like backups at Image?
With Jay, right? With Jay Fairbrother
Yes,
on Family Causes.
yes,
No,
yeah.
Dynamo 5.
Dynamo. Well, no, It was Noble Causes.
Noble Causes.
But Midnight Tiger appeared in Dynamo 5.
That's right. Okay.
So it was during that time, well, actually it was before, where I'm talking to all these Image guys. And, they're telling me about some of the deals, and I was pitching to Image fairly regularly. And I was getting the ins and outs. That's why I ended up being very, very good friends with Chris Simon, who's over at Mad Cave right now.
Yes.
And so I know, at least back then, definitely how it worked. And if the first issue does well enough, it'll pay for the subsequent issues, because there's always a drop in numbers and all that. So again, I try to tell the people I mentor, it's not just about the craft, it's about the business. That's how you survive. If you understand the business, then there's times you can wait things out or see things the way they go. So issue 1, and here's the thing, I don't want to get too much in the Action Lab, because for me, I'm not interested in saying anything negative. I'm just saying my piece or whatever it is based on fact.
We're two of the lucky ones that got out unscathed. So
I know. I'm finding that out.
Mm-hmm.
But I have also told people, I don't want to tell people the real reason, which is I've never badmouthed Brian. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yep.
I've never, because first of all, it's a whole thing. I don't get that. So
yeah.
Let's get into this. So when I'm supposed to get these numbers back from issue number 1, and this is when Comicron and all that was posting numbers.
I remember, yeah.
And I was on that well before my own book was out. It was when we were doing Cereal and Pajamas, so I was looking at that kind of stuff.
Oh my goodness! Yeah.
So yeah, bringing that back.
Not about that one.
So I'm looking, and I'm like, oh man, it did 2,500 for an indie book or something like that in the first issue. But then again, I thought, damn, I think I need to do at least 5,000 to carry the rest of the series and to possibly be in the black. So I was still working on issue 2, and I talked to Kevin. And typically at Image, if issue number 1 sales, at least back then, if issue number 1 sales were abysmal, the series was canceled. Right? So that's my mentality. So when I saw those numbers, and I never got a clear number from Action Lab, just so we're clear. I never got an actual clear number. Somebody showed me the actual numbers at some point. That's what happens when you have good friends there. So I saw what it did. And then those things that I was told didn't make sense anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So, but during that time, I told Kevin, I said, well, with those numbers, the book's not going to make it. And I'll be wasting more time working on a book that's not doing any numbers.
Meanwhile,
because
behind the scenes, not knowing this conversation's happening, I'm like, you got to do it. You got to do it. It's a story about you. It's a story about you and your dad. Your dad hadn't passed yet either. And I'm like, it's a story about your dad. You got to do it for your dad. You got to finish. You got to finish. And you were like, well, I don't know. And like, you were giving me like very, I don't want to say diplomatic answers, but you were giving very measured answers. There's that word again.
There's that word again. I'll live by that.
Measured answers. And again, like you had your own reasons, but not being privy to that information, I was more concerned with, I hate saying it, but legacy, and just being like, even, and I think I even said this to you, even if, you don't put it out, just finish it, just finish the story. So it's done and you've said it and it's there. And like, whenever you want to print, meanwhile, we fast forward 5, 6, 7 years and you did a hardcover with Comics Experience. So I know what I'm talking about, everybody. I know.
No. He knows. Like, I would say
I'm a good giver of advice. I'm a bad listener. You know what I mean?
Well, first of all, I didn't want to burden you.
But it's not a burden between me and you. Like I share your burden, you share my burden. That's the way it is.
I get that, but I'm trying to convince Kevin. I was like, Kevin, just go ahead and cancel the book because it's not going to make any numbers, and I don't want to waste any more time. So time, and I know that now at 50, but this is when what was 30?
Yeah.
Whatever I was at that time, where it was like, this is a waste of time now. As much as I love it, fiscally and chronologically, it was a waste of time.
Mm-hmm.
So I would have been better off going back to Kickstarter. But at that point, I'd already signed a contract. So that was out.
Right.
Especially at that moment, that was out.
At that moment.
So yeah. So I'm trying to tell Kevin, like, just let it go. You know, maybe we'll do something different. I don't know. But with 2,500, unless let's say Action Labs deal was such that you get a little bit more of the profit from it, which I knew wasn't true.
Wasn't going to be the case. Yeah.
It was not. So I was like, it's better because that way we can cut our losses at this point where you can just literally you could break even and then sell the rest off, which actually happened.
Yeah.
Right? Because I keep seeing damn near fresh copies of Midnight Tiger in the wild, man. Like I keep seeing, and people keep bringing them. I was like, I thought this was sold out, right? No. So
you know what?
Yeah.
Do you know what I found out? What's today? Today's Thursday. I found this out yesterday. One of my vendors is a comic book reader. He actually watches the show as well. David is his name. He was we were talking about my comics, and he's like, "What's the name of your comic?" And which I thought I'd mentioned, and I told him, and he went straight to Amazon, tried to order it, temporarily out of stock. That's never happened to me.
Wow.
Like, I mean,
that's a good thing, though.
Not for him that he can't get the book, but like at the same time, that's never been a thing. Like it's always been there. So,
but that's why doing Kickstarter and stuff like that, we're in charge, guys. Like we can do whatever we want. It is the best thing, sure. But we all work hard anyway.
Right.
It's funny because and also when you mention like something not being there, I listen. I'm not going to get into a whole business thing right now because we're running like into the portion of the last question here, or the last part, Vito. Mm-hmm. But like I had a Billy Dogma collection that like had a little screw up production wise in 2015 that I've been waiting. Now it's 10 years later. I'm waiting for enough time to go by so that all the people who bought it then will rebuy it again, maybe with an updated whatever, blah, blah, blah. Same thing with Red Hook. I want to collect all 4.5 seasons into an omnibus or two. I did Beef with Tomato, which was an autobiographic novel that I like to combine Opposable Thumbs that was nominated, that got me an Eisner nomination for a talent deserving wider recognition, which is cool. That's already the award. It's just getting listed, right. So, I mean, I definitely have a bunch of books I'd like to be out there so I can have those spines. I can have those inches on the shelf, I can reappear in the bookstore. And I'm still trying to figure that out. But right now, I'm just doing these little kind of like albums. Like, I'll use Prince again as an example. Like I'm doing these little 24-page one-offs right now just to expand on my pantheon, I would call it, of characters. And so like that's where I'm literally taking all kinds of hits and dipping into my measly savings while being grateful that people back me and that people respond to it and are supporting the artist, as it were, which is a lot of what it is when the more you put yourself out there, like doing podcasts like this or communicating online or using social media in a positive way. I think it all culminates and recommends you as a person that people want to be around and to support and hopefully read and enjoy their works. Because we're looking for fans. We're not looking for fair weather people. We're looking for true fans because they stay around forever. So, and we know what that's like because we're true fans of the things we love. Right. So, all right, Vito, what's this thing, man?
Okay, so you guys might remember a couple of weeks ago, I brought up this concept called the Oathbound to Dean, and Dean and I kind of bandied about some of the information while we were working on it. I had tasked a couple of other creators, Ray included, with creating different members of the cast. And I'm going to show you guys, if I can get to the right window here. This is a character by the name. Let me share my screen first. That would probably be better off.
Keeping it to yourself.
Yeah. I'm a real bright guy. Um, do 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 do. Do. There we go.
Can you describe it for the listeners?
Well, I am. I will describe it for the listeners. So Scott Fogg, who I've worked with on Action Lab, Dog of Wonder, and a couple of other things, his book, Phileas Reed Knows We Are Not Alone, came up with this character named Tommy Teague, who is the leader of the team. Known to the world as Professor Voodoo, which he absolutely hates. He just wants to be called Tommy or Teague. Someone sarcastically called him Professor Voodoo once, and it stuck. Then he says, what if Giles from Buffy was Doctor Strange? After the event in 1969, Teague dedicated his life to preparing for the next time, which for him meant reading every book, examining every artifact, even tangentially related to the arcane, the mysterious, and the impossible. So, with that said, I mean, there's more there that I can read to describe him. But what I wanted to show you was Matt Major, our buddy, did a piece of artwork for it, and this is him.
Wow. And so Matt Major, this is his character that he be doing for Oathbound? Is that what you're talking about?
No, this is Scott's character.
Sorry, Scott's character.
Yeah. Scott
and collaborated on it.
Right. Like Matt was like, if anybody else wants me to draw it, let me know. And I said, all right, well, here's one right now. Matt did Luminary, which if I can.
Right. I remember that now. Because I said it looked like him, I think, right?
Yes.
It looked like that.
Yes.
Right.
And this is Luminary's. Oh, there, she was there. I had her for a second and she disappeared.
She was up there for a second.
Yeah, I mean,
you have some other examples.
Yeah, some different.
What's going on?
I don't know. It won't open. I'm going to stop sharing. So anyway.
All right. So
I'll show you.
That looks cool.
Luminary some other time.
Yeah, I mean, we did get to see it. So
yes. Flash.
Did you have any others so far? Or?
So far, Dean is, I think, named his character tentatively Poker Face.
I'm still trying to figure out what the hell Oathbound is, and then I think I was assigned a kind of a Batman character. What was the character?
He was the strategist, the guy who came up with the plan to trap the evil being that I'm calling Umbraxis.
Right, and Ray, with the little that I understand of this idea that's evolving, I realize what I came up with Vito on the show was an idea that this guy listens a lot. And I kept thinking about how J.M. DeMatteis wrote Batman in Justice League International or Justice League, with Kevin McGuire. And I felt like Batman often was just in the background, kind of just listening to that person impart their wisdom, or then there's Green Lantern being an idiot, whatever, and all this stuff. And taking it all in, the information, and then parsing, separating the wheat from the chaff, as it were. To get down to the basics of what is this? Because I think sometimes we mistaken super intelligence for someone just stopping and listening. Just listen sometimes. And then you will see and hear, clarity will happen if you stop, getting it confused by all the noise. Mm-hmm. Just being able to push that to the side somehow, And again, I don't know how that's going to work in the story. But that's my feeling for the character. But Ray, are you creating a character for the Oathbound too? Is that?
I'm supposed to be.
What's his challenge?
Yeah. Vito? So what do you have for me, Vito? Again, because
let me read the email that I sent to you.
Really, because I got the overall concept, but then when we got into the characters, I was like, okay, I need time for this. I was in the middle when you did this. I was in the middle of a freaking deadline, and I was like, this guy.
I'm a real good friend.
That's why I stopped.
So, where we said,
And the reason why we're doing this on the show is because Vito wanted to show creativity. But what's weird is in the last week and a half, I kept saying to Vito, the last 2 or 3 conversations we had about another thing he's creating, I was like, we should be recording this right now.
Right.
But sure. He didn't want to do that, so
we might. We have 2 weeks to fill a show next week.
That's true.
So we might end up doing it.
Might bring that up.
So my idea for Ray was that he was a hero that fought in Korea, came home to a hero's welcome, but never really got further than that. He never became a heavy hitter or a marquee player, and as a result of his oath, he never does, or of this oath, I should say. He's content to be in the shadows, but it's time for him to come out. I'm not basing him on Isaiah Bradley from Falcon Winter Soldier, but I can see some of that in this description. And then I just said you have free reign to create the character name, race, whatever, like it's just all
so
that.
Now that I hear it, something definitely came up that fast. Damn. Yeah. So
my question, Ray, to you, as you're mulling it over, is I felt like sometimes characters are created because they're serving a story purpose. Like, what is it that they're supposed to achieve for the story, right? And so even though Vito said that my guy is a strategist, I don't know what he's strategizing for necessarily.
Right. What's the threat?
Well, here's again, I don't know that this is ever going to be an actual comic. What I'm doing, the whole point of this exercise is to show how we attack creating, so that our viewers or our listeners on the podcast can kind of see our thought process behind it. And again, there's a lot of things that are unintentionally vague, because I am still working out a lot of the kinks of the story, the overarching story. But I was trying to be vague enough to give everyone enough room to create something in that space that I'm tentatively creating. Again, there's an event in 1969 that almost destroys the Earth, and these heroes and one villain come together to stop it, and they are successful. But Dean's character, the strategist, in the modern day, finds out that he was off by 1 decimal point, or there's something that they didn't calculate for as a whole, or the villain, realizes that they were the one that caused this to begin with, and like what's funny is in the interim, since Dean and I have talked about it last, I've come up with a name for the villain, which is Umbraxis, Umbraxis. It is not a person, but it is an entity that was born on the moon, and the moon, being a reflection of the sun, also does reflect the Earth. It's called Earthshine. This is an actual scientific thing. So the discord on the Earth reflected to the moon and awoken something. And now it comes to Earth, and you start seeing like the Manson murders, Altamont, the Kent State riots, and it's infecting, at the very least, America, if not the world. And that's when the heroes come together to fight it. Fast forward to today, and we see in real life all of this discord in America, in the world, caused by, let's make up a name, Donald Trump. And nobody would ever name a character that.
That's a made-up name.
Yeah, that's one word, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah.
It's like a sound effect.
Yes.
Okay.
And so like all this discord is happening in the current day, and it's like, all right, well, these heroes have to get back together and fulfill their oath. So that's the overarching story. I'm filling in certain details now as I keep going with it. And again, I don't know that there's a point to this, except to show how different creators, especially, it's funny, all the creators I asked to do this are guys that I'm close with, and I wanted to show how they attacked this kind of.
Well, it's interesting because you spelled out a loose, tapestry story.
Yeah.
But I was going to say, it sounds like they did something right, but they also did something wrong because of it's coming back and it's taking a little bit of time, or the bad thing that they were able to stop kind of evolved into something more powerful later on. Let's call it. Right. And then they got to like somehow figure out maybe what was their mistake originally, or maybe they could even abandon that because maybe the new thing is just a whole new bag of worms, like.
Well, I've already figured out where this character that you want me to create is gonna fit in, because I get the sense, Dean, what is the character that you have? What's his name?
I call him Poker Face right now. Like, you can't figure him out. You can't figure this guy out.
So I'm calling this guy, like his government name is Aristotle Bradshaw. Aristotle Bradshaw at one point was he was kind of in the mix, you know, in and out after he came home from Korea, and there was things that he saw that kind of alluded to what happened in '69. And he was trying to
You
tell,
mean like a prescient thing, like he saw it before it happened type thing? Like he was a
no, that's not even his ability.
oh.
It's just things that he happened to notice. And since he's tangentially in this hero, you know, kind of community, he's talking to you know, your guy, like, I think you might have to rethink that because this.
Mm.
And your guy's so stuck on himself. He's like, no, I got this. You know, like I figured this out. Right. So he's like, okay, we'll see what happens. So he's doing things on his own, kind of preparing for that guy's mistake.
Mm.
And that's why he comes back out.
Mm.
Because when the group gets into a situation trying to figure out what they're going to do, he comes in and he's like, well, let's start with this.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, what I like is that it's kind of putting the blame of the current state of the world on a team of superheroes. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like it's like they thought they're like we fixed it, and then well, no, I guess you didn't really, you know. And like they wake up in 2025. Not that they wake up in 2025, but it's 2025. A lot of these characters are older. Matt has a legacy character who's younger, and the younger character can see that they messed up, and they're like probably like, no, we did our best, you know, with what we had, and you know maybe it wasn't good enough, that kind of thing. So
Or Dean's character could know Aristotle. It's like, you know what? I need to bring in somebody I trust.
Well, there's a term that I should look up because I think I might have brought this up at the last time, which was the idea of self-similarity. Did I bring that up, Vito? Do you
I
remember
think
that or
so,
not?
yeah.
And
Thing
my
with Mike Houston.
Mike Houston is a criminal defense lawyer. He's my best friend. We've known each other and drew comics together at age 12. You know, like self similarity is something he uses as a lawyer that he identifies. Um, well, what does it say here? It says in mathematics, a self similar object is exactly or approximately similar to a part of itself. It sounds like what it says, but the idea I think he was trying to the concept behind it is that sometimes just watch the behavior of someone and they will tell you everything no matter what they say. That's one thing, but what they
Right.
do, and I've always been an action over words as much as I love words, you know, watch a person's feet, look at their feet when they're standing in front of you. Are they in a
Yeah.
self-defensive position or are they relaxed, you know, like, and that sometimes if they complain about something, they're literally telling you about something about themselves, you know, or they like the idea that we're not that smart, you know, as much as we try to be smart, we're very basic in a lot of ways, and that you can tell a lot about a person by how they behave or what they talk about, and even they're complaining about that over there. Wait a second, you actually that's something you might because you're concerned about that, and there's a similarity to that. You're actually revealing something about yourself. So I do wonder if Poker Face or whatever the hell this guy is called is literally just waiting for people to reveal themselves and just being able to quickly identify, oh, boom, okay, you've done that a few times right now. I'm writing that one down because you're
Yeah.
telling me something about you. Even in casual conversation, you might discover something about people and discover whether they're guilty or not, or what they're able to do. And I know it's a little high concept, but I might be getting self-similarity wrong. But that's what I was thinking about with this character. And I think also I mentioned Vito was is it Noir on the boys?
Black Noir, yeah, you did.
Black
Yeah.
Noir
Yeah.
says nothing. I mean, spoiler, he gets killed, and then there's an actor that's portraying him now. But I love the idea for a guy who loves to write and loves to talk. I love the idea of creating a character that says nothing and ultimately comes to know everything because of that.
Hmm.
You know.
No, I love
Anyway,
that. No, that's, I think you should go in that direction. It's, and then when he does speak, it's profound because he's gathered all of that information just from listening. The
it's almost like
micro,
Black Bolt, just like Black Bolt, just saying one word.
yes,
You know.
exactly. Exactly. Or even more like super cool. he only speaks in calculations, and somebody else in the group actually has to translate.
Oh
That could
my
be your
God.
character. That would be your character, Ray.
Bingo. There we
Yeah.
go. Here we go.
Boom.
Bam.
And that's the point of this exercise, ladies and gentlemen. This is how it works sometimes. I've actually toyed with the idea of once we get all the characters, get the story down, to like put it out there as almost a Creative Commons type of public domain thing where anyone can use it and kind of create their own, comic book characters and just, maybe like even in the indicia say that these characters are created by XYZ, me, you, him. And then they just, get to write their stories and get to, explore it. Like for anyone that's kind of like young and trying to kind of, they have too many ideas and they just need something to focus on. Like they can just do this as their portfolio piece, as their thing for a project that they just want to get out, just so they can get that 100 pages of 99 bad pages out just for the one page. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
As long as I get royalties.
I like that idea.
That'll just be like one issue printed.
I came up with a title. I want my royalties. You draw and write them. I
just want royalties.
All right,
That's
Dean,
it.
are we ready to flush?
Yes.
Ray, it is customary because I record in an office that has a bathroom toilet. I flush at the end of every interview, so excuse me while I flush.
Okay.
You're not going to hear that right now, but it will be there in the what do you call it, in the podcast. Ray, where can everybody see you? Where can everybody read Midnight Tiger? Where's it at?
Where am I and where's that? Okay, so you can go and read Midnight Tiger right now at midnighttigercomics.com, or is it comic? Add an S or not add an S. You'll figure it out. And then you can find me on Facebook, Ray A. Height. And then you can find me on Instagram, R.A. Height Comics.
And what about
Blue Sky? Blue Sky, I'm R.A. Height.
What about Studio Skye-Tiger? Is there a separate?
And that's right. So studioskye-tiger.com. So that is spelled STUDIOSKYETIGER.com.
Very good.
And subscribe. Please subscribe. I'm trying to hit up 500 subscribers. I'm actually going to be putting my process on there for paid subscribers. It's a Substack, newsletter. But I think we have over 350 subscribers right now. So
I'm one of them.
Hey, don't miss it.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's fun. I post different things on that than I post on my social media. It's a little bit more. What would you say, Vito? In depth, like a little bit more.
It's definitely behind the scenes. It's more processy.
Yeah.
I would say.
Yeah, definitely.
I don't know that I would call it work in progress because I think it's all finished stuff that you're now showing the behind the scenes stuff. But yeah.
Yeah, currently, but the next, I don't know if I'm going to do it tomorrow or whenever, I'm actually going to show a snippet of the way I write my scripts, which is because I draw everything. I don't write full scripts. I just write beats. I get, the whole thing. If there's some dialogue that I absolutely want to have, that's also in there, and then I have the amount of pages that I have allotted for this scene. So it's this scene. The scene is in description, full description. And then I say, this is 2 pages. This is 5 pages. This is blah, 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 and then once I've done all of the layouts, I go back and I script.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense. I actually did a project like that. Because usually I write a script almost like a screenplay, like page 1, panel 1, description, dialogue, and when I'm the artist, I'm like, why am I doing all this? It's like, who am I writing?
I started the same way. I was like, what am I doing this?
What am I doing? But I still do that to this day. But one of my more successful, I think, comics that I did was when I drew it first and wrote it second, if that makes sense. But what I realized was, image is text. So comics art is writing. So yes. Laying out is writing. So that's very key to all this. So, hey, man, it was such a pleasure to talk to you tonight.
I know, now
awesome,
you're locked in. Now, we got to interact a lot more.
Absolutely.
So, it's funny, like there's a couple of guys, Ray being one, Sean Isaacs, who's going to be on the show next month, that I'm always, it's so weird. I learned so much from Dean, and I'm like, I want the guys that I care about to learn from Dean too. So it's always like, I've always, like, whenever I know that Dean's at a convention, that somebody else is at a convention that I want to meet Dean, I'm always like, go talk to Dean. And then I'll text Dean something like, hey, somebody's coming over, or whatever, or I'll tell Dean to go introduce himself or whatever. And it's just because, again, I've learned so much from Dean that I think we can all benefit, like the things that I've learned, I can teach you, but it's better that Dean teaches you instead of me. And so I like getting you two together, even in this format, to me is just everything.
Oh, well,
this
thanks,
is fun,
man.
Like it's funny because as soon as I popped on, I saw Dean's face. It was like, yep, let's go. Because it was, I don't know. See, this is the metaphysical thing, and I know you guys got to go, but it was a click, right? Like, it was a click, and we've never talked like this before, but it feels like we've been talking a long time.
That's right.
And again, like the basis of this show is conversations that I have with Dean on the phone in the car. And you and I, Ray, have had the same kind of conversation. So I knew the three of us would have that same kind of conversation, which we did.
And we'd never work.
No.
And hopefully people listen. Hopefully people listening to this will get that energy and that vibe. And I know I get it from other people. And I got it tonight from you guys. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. Thank you, Ray. Ray, I love you. You are my brother. I don't care what anybody says.
Love you, man.
We are related. Dean is my big brother.
I said, hey.
You're my twin. I guess, we are starting to start looking like.
I'm getting there.
I didn't shave, but I'd be a lot closer if I shaved.
Yeah.
All
right, guys.
We're beard brothers.
We're more than beard brothers, brother. All right. Dean, give it to him. Yay.
Yay.
All right. Good night, everybody.
Good night. Thank you, guys.